The shocking truth about Apostle Philip, what the Holy Spirit revealed in the desert at midnight. In the heart of the barren desert, under the eerie glow of a half-crescent moon, Apostle Philip stood alone, his silhouette a stark contrast against the endless dunes. Whispers of the unknown swished through the air, sinuous like the sand itself, carrying secrets older than time. It was said that at midnight in the desert, the veil between the spiritual and the earthly world thinned, allowing visions and revelations to pierce the quiet night. And tonight, those revelations would change everything. As he knelt, the cool grains beneath him felt almost alive, buzzing with an energy he could hardly comprehend. An unearthly sound echoed around him like 1,000 voices murmuring just out of earshot. Philip's chest tightened. He could feel the weight of their words pressing on him, as if the very fabric of reality were unraveling. What would it mean to unlock these secrets? He stared into the darkness, his heart racing as figures flickered at the corners of his vision, darting in and out of the shadows. His mind swirled with questions. What was hidden in the depths of this desert? What truths lay buried, waiting for a chance to emerge? The moon seemed to pulse with a light of its own, beckoning Philip to uncover what lay beneath. It was then that he noticed something glimmering, the peculiar symbol etched into a nearby stone. It glowed with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. Was it a sign? A warning? He felt drawn to it, yet a voice in his head screamed to run. Just then, a chilling breeze swept through the dunes, silencing the whispers and making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Philip swiveled around, half expecting to see the other apostles, laughing or joking, but he was utterly alone. Silence wrapped around him like a suffocating shroud, and his heart thudded loudly in the stillness. Would he dare to touch the glowing symbol? What if it unleashed something far beyond his understanding? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a distant howl shattered the silence, sending a jolt through Philip. Something moved beyond the dunes, something vast and unsettling. His instincts screamed for him to flee, yet curiosity tethered him to the spot. What if the true purpose of his presence here was not just to witness but to intervene? He could feel the energy swirling around him, a mixture of fear and exhilaration that electrified the air. In that moment, he locked eyes with the glowing symbol. It hummed with a power that felt both inviting and forbidden. Could it really be the key to knowledge that might shift the very foundations of faith? With his heart pounding, he hesitated for just a moment longer, wondering what awaited him on the other side of this knowledge and whether he was truly ready to face it. The desert stood still, and the answers lingered just out of reach. The moon dipped lower in the sky, casting eerie shadows that twisted along the dunes. Philip felt the air swell around him, thick with tension and anticipation. He took a step closer to the stone, his heart racing like a runaway train. The glow intensified, pulsating rhythmically, almost as if it were breathing. This was not just a symbol, it was a beacon. But what would it call forth? With trembling hands, he extended his fingers toward the radiant inscription. At the moment of contact, a jolt surged through his body. It felt like lightning coursing through his veins, illuminating every corner of his mind. Visions flooded in, images from ages past, scenes of ancient rituals, and whispers of forgotten prayers. Do you seek the truth? The words echoed, a booming voice resonating from within the depths of his consciousness. It was neither malevolent nor benign, simply an authority from beyond the veil. Philip's breath caught in his throat. What is this place? What do you want from me? His voice was barely a whisper, swallowed by the vastness around him. Knowledge comes with a price, it answered, and he shuddered. The stone was no longer just a stone, it had become a portal, a bridge between the worlds. Flickers of life and death danced before him, intertwining like lovers torn apart. Imaginary phantoms twisted around each other, revealing the struggles of those who came before him. A wave of despair washed over him as he saw a familiar figure, a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. His mother. The sight twisted his gut, he could almost reach out and touch her. Tears blurred his vision as her mouth moved silently, whispering words he longed to hear long ago. "Philip, please seek the light." The primal urge to flee surged within him, nearly overwhelming. If this truth came at such a cost, was he willing to pay it? He closed his eyes, tuning out the distractions, grounding himself in the stillness of the desert. The wind howled again, more visceral and fierce than before, as if warning him against venturing further. Philip opened his eyes and faced the glowing symbol with renewed determination. "I am not afraid." With that proclamation, the world around him shifted. The ground trembled, the sand swirling into a tempest, enveloping him in chaos. To his horror, the desert shook, as if releasing all its long-buried secrets. A cacophony of voices rose, terrified screams and desperate pleas intermingled with a laughter that rang hollow with malice. In that chaos, another vision broke through. A clock ticking down, its hands moving against time, counting to an uncertain end. Shadows darted closer, water sinking deep into the desert, uncovering what should have remained hidden. What was he witnessing? The balance between salvation and destruction hung by a thread, its fate tied to this moment. Heart racing, Philip knew he had to make a choice. Would he engage with the supernatural, or turn back now, forever changed by this night? The air crackled, daring him to take that leap. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the swirling sands, a silhouette framed by the moonlight, a looming shadow that extended its hand towards him. "You have been chosen," the voice boomed, echoing with ancient authority, "but you must decide. Will you confront the darkness?" Philip took a step back, confusion and fear rippled through him. "What if I fail? What if this darkness consumes me?" The figure swayed slightly, the edges of its form flickering, like an old film reel failing to hold its image. "Then you ensure it never finds the light," the voice softened, "and all that lies beyond the veil shall remain imprisoned." What awaited him on this precipice? Could he bear to face the unseen evils? Heart-pounding, determination surged once more. Tomorrow held unknown consequences, but tonight, he stood on the brink of revelation. With a voice steady and clear, he declared into the dark, "I choose to fight." As those words echoed back at him, the vast emptiness swallowed them up, leaving more questions than answers, leaving him hanging in the balance. What had he awakened to, and would he survive the battle between light and dark that loomed ahead? The ground convulsed beneath his feet, the surreal chaos intensifying. The winds howled like banshees, swirling sand encircling him like a cage. As the silhouette remained rooted, its hand still outstretched, Philip felt the weight of eternity pressing down on him. Was this truly happening, or was he trapped in a nightmare? Suddenly, the air shifted. The laughter that had danced through the dunes transformed into mournful wails, the cries of souls bound to the past. They cried out for freedom, and for the first time, Philip felt the cold touch of despair. His pulse raced as he remembered his mother's plea. He needed to gather himself, to harness the strength buried deep within him. "Stop!" he shouted, his voice barely piercing the tumult. But the figure's expression didn't flicker. It remained unwavering. "What you seek lies beyond the veil," it murmured, the words almost drowning in the cacophony around them. "The truth will either save you or consume you. The choice is yours." Philip swallowed hard. He could feel something stirring deep inside him, a connection to the cries, an understanding that transcended the veil. "What must I do?" His voice trembled but carried a desperate resolve. "Embrace the darkness," the figure commanded, its voice low and commanding. "You cannot wage war against what you do not understand. To fight this evil, you must first become it." A chill snaked down Philip's spine. To become the very thing he feared? The thought twisted and churned within him, but visions of his mother, of lost souls, fueled his resistance. They needed salvation, and he couldn't abandon them now. "No! I will not be a vessel for darkness." The surrounding winds howled in response, drowning out his defiance. Shadows deepened, and the air thickened around him, pressing in on every side. Out of the darkness, Philip sensed movement. Specters emerged, their forms shifting and indistinct. Faces appeared, twisted in pain and longing, reaching out for him pleading. "Help us!" One of them cried, and the sound sliced through him like broken glass. These were the lost, the ones he was meant to save. But how? As if responding to his thoughts, the mist coalesced around him, transforming into tendrils of shadow that caressed his skin with icy intent. They whispered secrets of despair, unraveling truths he had buried deep within, fears of failing, questions of worth, and the weight of responsibility. Each revelation exposed him, layered in vulnerability. With clenched fists, Philip fought back against the encroaching darkness. He remembered the love he had lost, the dreams that had faded. Gathering his strength, he summoned the memory of the light that had once warmed his heart. "You are not my master," he cried out, drawing heavily from the well of courage deep inside him. As if responding to his defiance, the shadowy figures recoiled, their whispers mingling in confusion. "You defy us? I will not give in." Philip shouted, defiant and energized. The radiant energy of the inscription flared brighter, casting gold and crimson light across the tumult. The wind settled, quieting the cries, pulling the darkness momentarily away, but the quiet was deceptive. The shadows, now recoiling like a wounded beast, would return stronger. "Tomorrow will not wait," the figure warned, its voice echoing ominously. "Choices made tonight shape the reality of the next dawn." Philip waited, his heart racing, the weight of the truth heavy on his shoulders. Every moment counted, but he still had questions burning within him. What did it mean to defy the dark? And what lay ahead beyond the stone? As the sands began to dissipate, the mysterious figure faded, leaving behind only the throbbing inscription and the stillness of the desert. Fighting back rising panic, Philip glanced toward the horizon. The first light of dawn was creeping over the sand, hope and terror intertwined. He was destined to confront forces far greater than he realized. Would he stand tall, or would the darkness engulf him whole? Only time would tell. The dawn's light spilled over the dunes like liquid gold, but Philip couldn't find comfort in its warmth. The air buzzed with tension, a distorted reflection of what should have been a tranquil morning. The weight of the inscription pulsed against his chest, urging him to move, to act, but the remnants of darkness lingered in the corners of his mind, clawing at his thoughts. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the crisp scent of sand and morning dew. Fragments of shadow still flickered at the edges of his vision, threatening to ensnare him once more. With a resolute grip on hope, he made his way toward the figure that had delivered the cryptic warnings and dark promises. Questions raced within him. He needed clarity, and he needed it now. What lay beyond the veil? What truths could set the lost souls free? As he walked, the remnants of the night's chaos fell silent, leaving only the whispers of the wind echoing his fears. "You cannot fight what you cannot understand," the figure had said, words that haunted him. What did it mean to embrace the darkness? Was surrender the only path to victory? Stopping at the edge of a small rise, he turned to survey the rolling waves of sand behind him. There, the shadows lay still, as if contemplating their next move. Beyond them, the horizon stretched wide and unforgiving. Determination coursed through him. He couldn't let those creatures of despair win. Suddenly, a shuddering voice broke the silence. "You think this is over?" The air thickened, and Philip's pulse quickened at the familiar resonance. The figure materialized before him again, no longer shrouded in mystery but standing defiantly. Its presence was palpable and menacing. Awakening was just the beginning. "You're supposed to be the hero, but every hero has a price. Who are you?" Philip demanded, his voice steady despite the urgency stabbing at his heart. "What do you want from me?" "I want what you want, freedom for the lost." Yet, freedom comes not from resisting the darkness, but from wielding it. The figure pointed toward the rising sun, barely suppressing its twisted smirk. "Do you dare step into the abyss? Can you bear its weight?" The challenge loomed heavily over him, a suffocating aura. Could he truly wield the shadows? Memories flooded back, his mother's gentle face, the warmth of childhood laughter now marred by sorrow. He could not risk tainting their memory. "No. I want to become what I hate." "Then you will fail," the figure hissed, its words dripping like venom. "And the lost, they will remain lost, forever chained to you. Do you want that burden to hang over you for all eternity?" His heart raced, panic clawing at his throat. But I don't know how to wield the darkness. I don't know what that entails. Then start by confronting your own. With a flick of its wrist, the shadows around them swirled, transforming into a mirror-like plane. Philip's breath hitched as he gazed into it. His own reflection stared back, but it morphed, revealing the shadows he fought against: self-doubt, guilt, failure. The waves of darkness swirled around him, taunting and seductive. He stepped back, shaking his head. You want me to accept pain? Regret? That's the price you're offering? Indeed. The figure's voice softened, an unsettling resonance mixing with the howling winds. Embrace that which you fear. Only then can you rise. Only then can you truly save the lost in yourself. A fierce wind swept across the expanse, sending grains of sand stinging against his skin. Philip's thoughts collided, and for a moment, all he could feel was the weight of choice pressing against him. Did he dare face this reckoning? As the sun rose higher, illuminating the valley, Philip took a deep breath, his resolve wavering, but reflection boiling within. The shadows felt alive, and the battle was on the horizon. The choices he would make could swallow him whole, or lead to salvation. And just like that, a faint echo rang in his head. The lost were crying out. Will you heed their call? In that mixed moment of light and shadow, he understood what lay before him. Now, he had to decide where to place his faith. Would he wield the darkness, or would he turn away? The time to choose was upon him. The moment stretched out like a taut bowstring, holding its breath. The figure's stance remained defiant, and the shadows circling him pulsed with dark energy. Philip felt every heartbeat echo through his bones as the sun glared down, relentless and unforgiving. He was at the edge of a precipice, not just of the desert, but of his very soul. Face yourself, or lose everything, the figure warned, a wretched grin curling its lips. There was a truth there, buried under layers of fear and denial. It resonated as deeply as the pounding in Philip's chest. The painful memories surged forth again: his father's disappointment, the tears he never shed, the suffocating guilt from choices made in haste. He stumbled back, struggling to summon the courage that had been his only companion in the dark nights. I can't do this. The words fell from his lips like stones, heavy with despair. Can't or one tea? The figure taunted, its voice dripping with a chilling familiarity. You've always had a choice, Philip. The weakness you cling to is a shadow all its own. The ground beneath him felt unsteady, swaying with each tormenting confession. And what then? I embrace this darkness? What does it mean to wield it? The realization was terrifying, yet oddly liberating. Perhaps it wasn't just about wielding the darkness, perhaps it was about understanding it, turning it into a weapon instead of a chain. A rush filled his veins, awakening something dormant deep within, a flicker of defiance. The shadows taunted him, wild whispers curling like smoke around his senses. I want to be shackled to my past, he breathed, the words courageously slipping from his lips. You think I fear the darkness? I fear letting it control me. Then prove it. The figure stepped closer, the very ground trembling beneath its weight. Prove that you can summon it, that it will yield to your will. Only then shall you learn the truth, Philip. The lost await. With that, the figure vanished, dissolving into a cloud of swirling black mist that enveloped the landscape. Panic surged through Philip, but along with it came the force of unclaimed power. It was time to act. Determined, he anchored himself in the confrontation ahead. Shadows circled his feet, investigating, alive and throbbing. They whispered his name like an ancient chant, reminding him of everything he wanted to escape, but he fixed his gaze on the horizon, scanning for his path, his truth. He reached deep within, seeking the well of despair that had haunted him. Closing his eyes, he embraced the memories that crawled forth, his mother, her blending laughter and sorrow swirling in his heart, her strength forged in the fires of hardship. For you, mother, for the lost. With a crushing breath, he felt the tide of energy shift, pooling at his fingertips. The desert exploded in a riot of colors and shapes, overwhelming his senses. The shadows began to twist and bend, becoming tangible, aligned against him in a haunting dance. Now I understand, he murmured, fear dissipating like mist in the morning sun. This was not the end. This was the beginning of a fight, a dance with darkness itself. Suddenly, a chilling scream pierced the air, echoing from the depths of the dunes. Philip whirled around, heart racing, mind screaming for answers. Had the lost been stirring? Were they closer than he had imagined? Philip! A voice rose from the depths of the abyss, familiar yet alien. Help us! The darkness swelled, drawing closer, murmuring sweet promises mixed with desperate pleas. Each whisper raised the hair on his arms, igniting a surge of urgency. Who was calling for him? Before he could process the thoughts, figures emerged from the haze, shadows of those he thought he had lost forever. Help! They cried, almost in unison, voices woven into the very fabric of his heart. Terror seized him, but deep within, a fire ignited. Could he stand against the shadows, wielding the darkness that sought to swallow him whole? What awaited him on the other side? As the shapes dove toward him, flickering in and out of reality, Philip took a decisive step forward. Ready to embrace the tempest head-on. The time for cowardice had passed. He clenched his fists, prepared to plunge into the unknown. I will save you, I will not let you fall. And with that promise, he found himself teetering on the precipice of a revelation. What terrible truth lay waiting inside the abyss, and could he truly confront it? The apparition of faces loomed before him, writhing in the dusky haze of the desert. They were specters of his past, but more than that, they were weighty shadows stitched into the fabric of his very being. Philip felt their desperation claw at his heart, pulling him toward them, toward something he feared yet longed for. With a shudder, he remembered their names, lost echoes of laughter, shouts, love, pain. Each name cut into him like a jagged stone. What do you want from me? He shouted, voice cracking under the strain of emotion. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, bathing the landscape in blood-red hues, and the world felt charged with impending doom. Help us! They cried again, a chorus of anguish that rattled his soul. Yet their faces remained vague, shadowy, and indistinct, an artful play of memory and yearning. Shadows danced around him, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Yet the truth eluded him, like trying to catch smoke. In that moment, a deep sense of urgency surged through him. He opened his palms, feeling the ebb and flow of that dark energy swirling around. If I have the power, he whispered, I will use it to find you. But would that power turn on him? Would it consume him as it had done so many before him? Shadows surged forward, tightening around him, the pressure becoming palpable. Fear gripped him, his vision narrowing. He needed to commit. Philip let out a primal scream, a mix of raw determination and desperation. He summoned all he had: pain, regret, hope, and let it flow through him. Suddenly, the shadows responded, a thunderous roar of energy that echoed back into the very core of the desert. He felt it, a tremor of recognition. This isn't just your darkness, he murmured as the whispers transformed, guiding him. It's ours. It's shared, and if we're going to emerge from this, it has to be together. Together! The shadows surged with renewed energy around him. Philip grasped for the souls that flickered before him, reaching out with trembling hands, merging his pain with theirs. In that moment, they solidified. Figures began to take shape: his father, mother, lost friends, each face now illuminated under the blazing orange glow of the horizon, suffused with vulnerability. You've never abandoned us, his mother whispered gently, her presence wrapping around him like a warm blanket. But before that intoxicating warmth could settle in, a new surge of darkness emerged, swirling violently, like a storm brewing beneath. A chilling laugh cracked through the air, cutting like a knife. You think you can save them? The voice was familiar and foreign, a twisted mirror of his own fears. Embrace your darkness, Philip. It urged, the malevolence wrapping around him. Philip staggered backward as the shadows writhed in response, teetering like a sea of chaos. You can't fight it, and you can't save them either. No! He gasped, struggling against the deluge of hate that cascaded over him. Panic crushed him, squeezing his chest. I won't surrender to your lies. The figures of his loved ones flickered, pulsing with the tension of their shared suffering. Their affirmations energized his spirit. You have always had the strength to choose, they called out, their voices melding with the shadows, creating a haunting harmony. As Philip gripped his fists tighter, he flung out his hands toward the depths of darkness, drawing upon the energy swirling within. I choose to fight. he roared, his voice echoing in the cavernous space of the desert night. An explosion of light erupted, blinding him momentarily. For that brief second, he felt everything: the warmth of their love, the depth of his anger, the raw essence of power flowing from the ground beneath him. But even as he conjured their light, shadows clawed back, threatening to pull him under. What lay beyond this moment? Would he conquer the wavering specters of his past or be consumed by them once and for all? And as the tempest of darkness swirled around him, threatening to unleash chaos, Philip wondered, would he emerge on the other side, or would they all be lost once again? The echoes of his family pierced through the noise. "Fight for us," they whispered. Resolute, he pressed deeper. "I will fight for all of us." But the storm raged on, and the final truth now hovered just beyond his grasp, waiting to be unveiled. What horror awaited him in the darkness? The blinding light exploded outward, and for an instant, the chaos was replaced by a profound silence. Philip stood at the edge of his own rebirth, heart racing and breath suspended in a terrifying yet exhilarating balance. He could feel the shadowy tendrils pulling back momentarily, flickering, as if hesitating between retreat and ferocity, but then, as the light dimmed, the figures around him flickered uncertainly, revealing glimpses of their anguish once more. The warmth of his family transformed into an icy chill, the descent of despair wrapped around him like a noose. The laughter and love he'd momentarily felt crumbled to dust, his resolve now morphing into trepidation. "Philip!" The voice was a low growl, reverberating from somewhere deep in the shadows. It twisted through the air, coiling around him like smoke. "Did you really think you could alter fate?" With a surge of determination pulsing through him, he stood firm. "I can change what you created. I won't allow you to take them from me." But doubt gnawed at him. The faces of those he lost melded with shadows, their expressions now warped and tormented. "Save them?" the voice taunted. "You can't even save yourself." Each word lashed at him like barbed wire, and a wave of despair crashed over him. Was it all a futile effort? Was this battle one he was never meant to win? Then, suddenly, footsteps echoed through the dimness, sharp and unwavering. Figures began to emerge from the swirling darkness, not the warm embraces of his loved ones but warped versions, distorted, twisted reflections of what he cherished. Their eyes were hollow, mocking the truth Philip had fought so hard to grasp. "What do you see, Philip?" One figure stepped closer, a cruel smile on its face. "Is it me? Or are you staring into the abyss of your own making?" His father's distorted form grinned, and Philip recoiled, pain surging through his veins. "You're wrong. I can bring back the past. I won't allow you to mock me," he yelled, fighting the rising tide of hopelessness, but every scream, every protest, wound tighter around him, spiraling into the recesses of his mind. They all seemed to join in a haunting chorus. "You let us down, Philip. You couldn't protect us." He faltered for a moment, and that vulnerability opened a chasm beneath him. Fear clawed at his throat, an insistent whisper urging him to relent. Would he let them sink back into the shadows, lost forever? He felt the love they once exuded turn to ash within him, an unbearable weight as despair squeezed relentlessly. "No! I refuse!" Philip shouted into the deepening shadows. "You will not take them from me." And with that declaration, he lunged forward, grasping at the shadows, not with fear but fierce conviction. His heart raced as he pulled the swirling darkness to him instead of running from it. With every ounce of strength, he infused the writhing shadows with his light, determined to transform despair into defiance. "Together!" he called out, and suddenly, he felt their energy unite with his, a palpable force now swirling at his fingertips. He could channel this grief, this memory, into something meaningful. Not just for him, but for everyone lost here. As darkness trembled beneath his furious push, a pulse of clarity emerged, a revelation. What if the answer was not simply in battling the shadows but embracing them? The intensity of light flared again, an angry beacon amidst the crashing waves of darkness. Each face, distorted yet desperate, looked to him with hesitant understanding. "Philip," they whispered in unison, solidarity beginning to stitch them close, but just as the shadows began to dissolve, a piercing shriek echoed through the night, wraith-like and penetrating. The familiar voice of the one who had taunted him crackled through the air. "You think you can defy me? I am the darkness that resides in you all." Philip stumbled back, fear coiling tighter. He was losing ground, teetering on the brink of uncertainty. The specter loomed larger, ready to strike, threatening to obliterate everything he had fought for. "Stand strong, Philip," came a gentle whisper from within the light, urging him, infusing him with hope. But as he gathered the flickering light, the shadows surged once more, unleashing a tidal wave of dread. Would he find the strength to embrace both light and darkness, or would the storm swallow him whole? In that final moment, the truth revealed itself. Confronting the darkness was just the beginning. What came next could shatter everything or save them all. And amidst that turmoil, a chilling thought haunted him. What if darkness was not just an enemy but a secret ally waiting to be unraveled? The specter lunged forward, its dark form almost consuming the flickering light. Philip felt the rush of icy wind whip around him, each gust whispering fear into his mind. This wasn't just his shadow, it was a manifestation of everything he thought he had lost, everything he feared could slip away again. "Philip!" The malevolent voice resonated, a mockery of his name laced with venom. "Do you think confronting me with your pathetic light will save anyone?" Terror gripped his heart, each beat echoing in defiance of his will. "You don't own me!" he screamed, but the conviction felt thin, fragile. The shadows loomed, hungry for the remnants of his hope. Behind him, the twisted faces began to dissolve, merging with the dark. 1,000 lamenting voices swirled around him, dragging him deeper into a vortex of despair. They cried for solace, twisted, tormented echoes that clawed at his sanity. "Help us!" they called, their grief hanging heavy in the air. In that moment, a flicker of clarity ignited within him. He remembered the warmth of their love, a warmth that once wrapped around him like a shield. What if he embraced the darkness instead of resisting it? What if it wasn't just an enemy, but something he can understand? "Stand with me!" he shouted, mustering every ounce of strength he had. "Together, we can reshape this." As he stretched out his hands, the shadows hesitating as if weighing his words. Philip closed his eyes, willing himself to think of every moment of laughter, every shared joy, every sacrifice they'd made as a family. He summoned their faces, their smiles, and poured this love into the shadows like a painter unleashing vibrant colors onto a dull canvas. Instantly, the shadows began to ripple, caught in a storm of confusion. "What are you doing?" the voice growled, quaking against his newfound resolve. "I'm rewriting the story," he declared, his voice firm and steady. "You may be part of me, but you don't define me." The light surged from his fingertips, intertwining with the shadow, twisting and turning in a dance of chaotic beauty. But just as the darkness began to shimmer, shifting shapes of anguish wavering in the brilliance, the specter lashed out. "You think embracing your demons will save you? You're even more naive than I thought." The force of its rage slammed against him, a wall of despair that threatened to crush him. Philip staggered backward, fighting against the suffocating darkness. "I am not alone," he bellowed, and that voice, soft yet powerful, came through again, mingling with his own. "Breathe, Philip," it whispered, a soothing balm against the tumult. "Embrace who you are, all of you." With that gentle push, something inside him ignited anew, a relentless determination. Philip plunged deeper into the darkness, feeling the prick of dread but refusing to shy away from it. "You may haunt me, but you cannot own me," he roared, infusing the darkness with luminescence, allowing the pain and anger to melt away into light. Each distorted face began to brighten, murmurs of peace pushing through the shadows. "Philip, we're with you." But just as hope began to bloom within him, the specter roared the last hurrah of a cornered beast. "You're a fool. You've sacrificed your soul for an illusion." His moment of triumph was tinged with uncertainty, echoing back to haunting questions. What if he was wrong? What if the darkness didn't just lie in shadows but also in his own heart, waiting to drag him back into oblivion? "Philip!" The world around him trembled, the air thickening as the battle raged inside and out. Would the light he had unleashed be enough? Or was the darkness simply biding its time, lurking like a predator in the shadows, waiting to strike? As he prepared for the next onslaught, the silence grew thicker, weaving an eerie tension that left him breathless. Would he finally become one with the shadows and emerge unscathed? Or would the darkness swallow him whole, extinguishing the flicker of hope that clung to life? In that moment of heavy anticipation, all he could do was brace for impact, knowing he stood at the precipice of the unknown and the true battle had only just begun. The air crackled with tension, a palpable energy humming in the silence. Philip felt the weight of the specter's sinister gaze boring into his soul. This is it, he thought, heartbeat quickening. The darkness twisted around him, coiling like a serpent, waiting for a moment of weakness, but he stood firm, eyes blazing with determination. The flicker of light he had summoned pulsed against the tide of shadow, flickering but refusing to surrender. You don't scare me anymore, he yelled, pushing back against the encroaching dread. With every ounce of willpower, he recalled the faces of his loved ones, urging their warmth to fill the hollow spaces within him. You're not just echoes, he roared, projecting his voice into the void. You are my strength. The walls of shadow trembled as he channeled their collective hope, the energy swirling around him like a tempest. Just then, the specter surged forward, a dark wave rushing to engulf him. You're a lost cause, Philip. Embrace me. I am your truth. The voice rattled in his ears, a cacophony of taunts and threats that reverberated through his very core. Truth? He spat, shaking his head. No. You're a lie, built on fear and pain. I choose to fight. Each word was a strike against the haunting assertions, pushing back the tide of despair. The swirling shadows paused, as if caught in a moment of confusion, the specter faltering. But that moment didn't last long. The darkness surged again, more ferocious this time. It lashed at him, swirling into forms that depicted all his failures, losses, and regrets. Philip felt them tugging at the edges of his mind, clawing at the courage he had fought so hard to summon. No! He screamed, forcing the light brighter. I will not carry you. You're not my identity. He reached deeper, grasping fragments of hope and love, igniting them into a burning inferno of defiance. The darkness crackled against the light, and suddenly he could see their faces again, smiling, encouraging, infinite. As the shadows writhed, he focused harder, creating a circumference of brightness that pushed fiercely against the dark. We won't be forgotten, Philip shouted, and with a final surge of energy, he took a step forward, plunging into the heart of the darkness. The specter recoiled, howling in outrage. You'll regret this, foolish boy. Its voice echoed, but Philip felt the power of connection, the shared pain with his loved ones empowering him. He remembered their laughter, their compassion. They were not just memories, they were a lifeline. In that surge of strength, cracks appeared in the dark facade. For the first time, Philip felt the possibility of victory. His breath came heavy, the pressure around him still immense, but hope ignited a ferocity he didn't know he possessed. You have no hold on me, he roared, a wild shout that resonated. Suddenly, the ground quaked as the shadows began to dissipate, peeling away against the light. The contorted faces transformed, turning from anguish to peace. He saw them for what they were, lost, yes, but not forever. I forgive you, he whispered to the twisted forms, and that word hung in the air like a lifeline, casting new light on the darkness. Each moment felt eternal, the silence charged with anticipation. But just as he thought he had found his footing, the ground beneath him crumbled. A fissure opened wide, threatening to swallow him whole. No! Not like this! He cried out, instinctively reaching for the hands of those he loved, grasping for anything to halt his fall. In that heartbeat, as he dangled on the brink of oblivion, the specter's rage echoed one last time. You think this is over? It shrieked. Your battle hasn't even begun. With a jolt, Philip felt fear claw at him again. Was he truly ready for what lay ahead? The darkness stirred, and he understood his journey had only just begun. What sinister forces awaited him? He took a deep breath, his mind racing, preparing for the unknown. Would he dive into the darkness and face it, or would it consume him entirely? As the ground trembled beneath him, one thought burned bright: the fight was far from over. And in that chaos, the question lingered: what sacrifices would he have to make to truly confront the specter of his past? As dawn's tender light glimmered over the vast desert, Philip stood at the precipice of his greatest struggle. Dignified and breathless, he realized he was no longer merely a vessel for pain but a willing bearer of hope. The memories of lost souls swelled within him, murmurs of love, laughter, and legacy intertwining with the darkness he had grappled against. Time hung suspended as he prepared for the inevitable clash. "You must confront the truth," echoed the voice of the spectre, now looming nearer. Each word dripped with malicious intent, yet Philip stood defiant. He clenched his fists, grounding himself in the energy swirling at his fingertips. "I know who I am," he shouted, the certainty infused with every pulse of his heart. "I am not your puppet. I will not dance to your commanding tune." The spectre lunged, shadows entwining with a rush of chilling wind, desperate to snare Philip back into that suffocating abyss. But this time, Philip stood his ground. "You may haunt my past, but you cannot define my future." The confrontation rushed toward him, a tempest of chaos swirled through the air. Philip braced himself. Each shadow was a projection of his fears, and he felt their grasp. But instead of flinching, he drew strength from every flickering memory. Squaring his shoulders, he reached deep within, igniting the power of his determination. "I embrace my darkness. I am not afraid." With that declaration, a radiant beam erupted from him, dispersing shadows like mist beneath the morning sun. Light filled the air, illuminating the long-buried secrets and reclaiming the spaces within his soul where despair had loitered. The walls of darkness began to tremble, distorted faces reforming back into their true shapes. "I forgive you," he whispered once more, a soothing balm against the chaos. "I forgive myself." As the shadows writhed, their malevolence transformed. The ache of regrets lessened, replaced with the sweet relief of release. Their twisted forms morphed into shapes adorned with light, their cries shifting from despair to acceptance. The atmosphere lightened, a gentle wind caressing him like a long-lost friend. In that moment, the spectre's fury crescendoed. "You think you've won?" The voice twisted through the desert. "You're nothing without your fear." "Fear may keep me alert, but love gives me strength," Philip replied, a newfound resolve coursing through his veins. He raised his arms, channeling every memory into the light, illuminating the path forward. "I will no longer let you dictate my worth," he roared, and with one final push, he released the energy in a mighty explosion, the desert alive with his fervor. Light pierced the shadows, revealing the beauty hidden within the darkness. The spectre screamed, caught in the tempest, its form buckling under the sheer force of truth. "You cannot erase me." Philip watched, heart pounding, as the dark form began to dissipate, absorbed by the fervent rays of hope. "I don't intend to erase you, I will integrate you. You are part of me, but you will not control me." Finally, with a deafening roar, the darkness shattered, fragments dispersing like wisps of vapor in the waking sun. The ground faded into stillness, and Philip found himself alone beneath the vast, clear sky. Breathless, he sank to his knees, the weight of the night's events heavy on his chest. His heart thrummed with newfound clarity. Though the memories of his past still lingered, he'd chosen to anchor himself in love and acceptance, a dual force that could not crush him. "I will carry you with me," he murmured, speaking to the shadows that now felt more like allies than antagonists. "Together, we shall usher in a new dawn." And as he gazed out across the desert, the sun began to rise, splashing warm hues of orange and gold across the endless dunes, a bridge between night and day, despair and hope. In that moment, Philip understood that life was a journey, with light and dark intertwined like the patterns in the sand. He rose to his feet, chest uplifted and spirit indomitable. The battle he had fought would forever change him, yet he welcomed the scars as reminders that he faced the darkness and won. With a newfound determination, he turned toward the horizon, ready to share his story. He would embrace the world beyond the veil, illuminated by the lessons of the night. As he set forth, a call to the beyond echoed in his heart. "Let this be known, there is strength in embracing the whole of our being. The light awaits on the other side of fear, and it will guide us home." True freedom was not only a destination, but a way of life, the union of light and dark, forever intertwined. And now, dear friends, it's your turn. If you felt the intensity of Philip's journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for these awe-inspiring stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure we keep delivering incredible tales like this one. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Philip's awakening. What do you think lies beyond the veil he stepped into? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this triumphant conclusion. Your voice matters in this community, and together we can keep spreading hope.